Welcome to Conversations in the Closet with your host, motivational speaker, fitness expert, and fashion guru, Theresa Roemer.
Welcome to Conversations in the Closet. I am your host, Theresa Roemer, with my lovely co-host, Tori Taylor.
Hello.
Yes, and today we have the privilege of getting to interview Dr. Richard Harris. I think I used to call you Double Doc, but now aren't you like Triple Doc?
My friends started calling me Master Double Doc after I got the MBA.
So what was the MBA in?
Global leadership.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like ready to take over the world.
That's the plan. with one person at a time.
So, I know your history, but the world doesn't know your history. So you started off as a pharmacist.
Yes, that is correct. That was my first job, slanging pills, slanging drugs. You know, it was always funny in college. That's how we used to go hit on the girls. Be like, "Hey, girl, I'm a drug dealer." Legally.
Well, my co-host is a pharmacist also.
Yeah, but it doesn't go both ways, so you know.
Yeah. Right. That was the quote. I think we had T-shirts that said that. I'm a drug dealer. I think that's how we had T-shirts like that in college. But yeah, so I was a pharmacist. Realized I loved physiology. Realized I loved how medications interacted with the body. But realized I didn't know how you diagnosed anything, and that bothered me.
Got it.
And that's why I went to medical school after pharmacy school.
So how long were you actual pharmacist before you realized you wanted to go back to school to be a doctor?
I was 6 months in pharmacy school.
Wow, that was fast.
Yep. Yeah, it was like an epiphany one day. I was sitting in my dorm room just like, you know, when I'm 65 years old, if I don't go to pharmacy school or if I don't go to medical school, and I'm going to be mad at myself. And about a week of soul searching, I said yes. And I said, okay, do I want to quit pharmacy school? And I said no, because I never quit anything in my life. And I know my mom would have backhanded me in the next week if I quit. So I stayed in pharmacy school, finished that up, and applied for medical school my last year of pharmacy school. Worked for a year as a pharmacist in medical school and actually worked as a pharmacist my first 2 years in medical school.
So did your parents think you were crazy when you said, I want to go back to school and become a medical doctor too?
The only question they asked me is like, are we going to pay for that? that was all they wanted. I said, no, I have a plan. They're like, okay, good, do whatever you want.
Because I was going to say, they were like, really? Now we got to pay for medical school too? You can't make up your mind?
You know, it's funny. That brings up a good point. A lot of people on my journey were like, you have no idea what you want to do. Why don't you just make up your mind? Why don't you just stick with a career? And now with everything that's happened, right, no one career is safe. And now all my friends who are looking at me having multiple income streams and multiple degrees and different job areas, now they're all like, man, I wish I had done what you had done. I was like, okay, 5 years ago, you're the one who were calling me crazy, right? But this was my plan all along. I always envisioned this type of area where I could flow like water in between all my different interests.
Right. Very smart. So how long have you been a doctor before you decided you needed to go back and take your MBA?
So that was about a year and a half. When I was in conventional medicine, I hated it. I hated the model. I hated the 15-minute cookie cutter visits. I hated it how no one was really interested about improving outcomes. It was only the bottom line.
And I think that's when I first met you. You were still doing the cookie cutter 15-minute visit with each patient. And I remember you saying you wanted to change.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's when we first met, and I started putting in the plans of how to change. And I realized the easiest way to do that was to get an MBA, because I knew there needed to be physicians who were also well-versed in business. You know, the old model was you had physicians who were also entrepreneurs. They own their own practices.
Right.
Nowadays, that very rarely is the case. They're all owned by big hospital systems.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who are making the decisions a lot of times are business people, not business people who are also physicians.
Right.
So I wanted to bridge that gap, and I said that there has to be a better way that you can improve the business of medicine.
So when I first met you, we clicked, I felt like, because, you know, with my health and fitness background in health clubs and being a personal trainer for 30 years, and then you were so, I don't want to say hell bent, but you were so focused on making sure people didn't really have to go get drugs. You wanted them to, you wanted the healthier side of things for people. And so that's how I think you and I meshed, is because both of us we're after the same thing for people. We, you know, even though you're a doctor, I didn't want people to have to go see the doctor. I wanted them to take care of themselves so they didn't have to go see the doctor. And even though you were a doctor, you seem to be more on the wellness side of things and not, oh, now it's too late kind of thing.
Right, exactly. Part of why I built what I built, where I have these multiple income streams, is because I never wanted to run into the agency problem, where if I was doing something for someone, is it because it's best for them or it's best for my pocketbook?
Right.
And so now I have the ability that whenever I'm doing something for someone, it really is because I think it's best for them and not for my wallet, because I have other things I can fall back upon for finances. So really, if I run out of clients someday, that is my goal. That's my mission. I will have achieved what I wanted to achieve.
Right.
And that's the point where you get people to a level where they don't need as much maintenance. It's really back where the hospital system was developed for those acute care, really bad type of life-threatening scenarios.
Right.
And then our daily wellness was upon ourselves and our behaviors and our interventions and food and meditation and all these other things that we should be doing to keep ourselves well. Right.
So you not only work in the hospital pretty much every day seeing patients, but you also have your own wellness. Mm-hmm. I call it a wellness center. I don't know if you actually have a location or not. I thought you do. But I know I order some of my supplements through you and everything.
Yes. So I used to have a brick and mortar location, and then I realized I could do the same thing online.
Right.
So I have a medical device I placed in a spa. You know, our good friend Linda, I have one of my medical devices there.
Yeah.
And then everything else I do online. My visits are online. My e-store. I order the testing online. I have online courses, and this really allowed me to keep my prices low. A lot of the problems with the area of medicine that I'm in is it's just too costly for most people to afford.
Right.
And I didn't want that. I wanted to be accessible for most people. And then I wanted to be in a way that I could literally do this from anywhere. And you can't do that with the kind of the traditional brick and mortar type medicine. But the way I've set up is I can talk to you, I can order tests, I can interpret, I can walk you through things no matter where I am in the world.
So you could be sitting at Nikki Beach in St. Bart's having a pina colada, and I could talk to you.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the goal, right?
Right.
I'm at Destin at the end of the month, and if my clients need me, if I want to schedule something that day, I'll do it from there, and we can walk through everything, make sure my client gets what they need, and then go from there.
Where are you going the end of the month?
Destin.
Nice. Are you driving or flying?
Flying.
See, good guy. Which leads us into this coronavirus, right? Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. How are you surviving through all this?
You know me, I'm blessed. I pride myself on my wellness program. So the way I talk to people about this is a wellness program is like saving account. Right? You make daily deposits into yourself and into your health, and then if something does happen, you have a reserve to draw upon.
Right.
Most people, unfortunately, their health and wellness accounts are bankrupt, completely bankrupt. And so that's why we're seeing with COVID these severe complications in people who have diabetes, who have hypertension, who have lung disease, who are obese or overweight. You know, one of the things I talked about, and it makes me very unpopular, but I don't care if I'm unpopular if it's what's best for another person.
Right.
Is that obesity is not a cosmetic issue. It is a serious medical problem that has serious medical complications. So we need to treat this like it is a medical problem and not solely just a cosmetic issue. So we're seeing things with COVID that I've never seen before. I've been in health for 16 years.
Right.
I've never seen anything like this.
So my question is, and so in the last few years, a couple things have become extremely popular. Plus size models. Okay, so it's like really popular now to be really overly plus size. Like in my eyes, when I look at them, not all of them, but some of them, I look at obese. Like when I look at them, I'm like, you're not just plus size. You know, I think plus size is like a size 14 or 16, but these girls are like size 28 or whatever. You know, I'm like, I look at it because I come from that health and fitness background. I look at that as a health issue, not, oh, it's so popular to be a plus size model. What's your thoughts?
Right. I'm right there. I'm right there with you on that. Listen, I am all about empowerment and positivity and gratitude and motivation and loving yourself.
Right.
But to me, I believe that truly loving yourself is being the healthiest version of yourself that you could possibly be. And truly loving yourself is making sure you have that health and wellness savings account.
Right.
To ensure that if something bad does happen to you, because we're all human living the human experience, bad stuff is going to happen to us.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. There are things that are going to be outside of your control. But I'd much rather prepare myself as much as possible when that day comes. So a lot of us tend to think that, oh, you know, nothing bad's going to happen to me. I'm the exception. No, something's going to happen to you. Have that savings account, have that health and wellness,
right.
Make sure you're okay. You know, we know that having excess body fat is linked to 13 different types of cancers. It's linked to diabetes. It's linked to high blood pressure. It's now one of the primary drivers of this COVID pandemic as far as severe outcomes. It's a pro-inflammatory condition.
So do you see? So when you go to the hospital, do you see a lot of your patients obese?
You know, the obesity rate's above 40% in most states.
Right.
Now.
Right.
60% of people adults have a chronic medical disease. 40% have two or more.
Wow.
So in this current environment, the people who are sick outnumber the people who are healthy. And that's why when we had a health crisis, it stopped everything.
Right.
Everything stopped.
So another question then. You know, it's been very popular in these last few years to vape. Like the young kids, you know, like I go to my neighbor's house and she has a party going on with her 16-year-old and she's got like 100 guests there. And every kid walking around there is vaping. My question is, how do you think with the amount of young kids that we're seeing in the hospitals now with COVID, do you think that's related to the vaping?
It could be, you know, because we're still finding out about exactly what vaping does to the body.
Right.
Right. Because we don't have, 10 or 15 year studies on what this does.
Right.
You know, the e-cigarettes and all this stuff is still pretty new. But there is some preliminary evidence that shows that some of the toxins in these products do cause inflammation, can cause lung damage, not to the same degree of cigarettes per se, but they still have some issues with them. And then even some of them can induce a lung condition called popcorn lung that happened in popcorn workers back in the day because of the chemicals that were used.
Right.
So you combine vaping with something that is a respiratory disease.
Yeah. And
we know that respiratory diseases have worse outcomes with COVID.
Right. Yeah. So I that came across my mind the other day. I thought, wow, with the amount of kids that are vaping now and with coronavirus hitting the younger kids now, I'm like, wow, I wonder if it's because their lungs have been damaged from vaping. And so they're more susceptible to this coronavirus since it's in the lungs a lot, So I just wondered if there was a correlation there.
in theory, it makes sense. I don't know of any data that shows that.
Right.
But part of it is it's hitting a lot of the young people because the young people went crazy on Memorial Day. You know, you saw all those photos of the bars in Houston. They were packed. And unfortunately, I've heard that a lot of people were testing positive and then not quarantined. So they were still going out because they felt fine. And that's why it spread around the 21 to 35-year-old population. We saw a massive spike in the last few weeks of cases in that population.
Right. Well, and so you kind of had two things happening. You had the Memorial Day celebrations, and then you had the George Floyd protests going on too. So I'm sure all of that together, just because you didn't really see most of us out protesting because we were still trying to stay home and be careful, because we were told to. We might have been protesting from our couches, but we were trying to still be safe and not be out amongst everyone. So what's your thoughts on the mask?
So here's the thing about the mask. People tend to think of everything in binary terms. It's 0 or 1. It's all or nothing. And so when people say masks don't work, I'm like, well, what do you mean they don't work? All right, what is your outcome that you're saying that they don't work? So do masks help prevent the spread of the respiratory particles? Yes. There is good evidence that shows that surgical masks can decrease the amounts of particles you put in the air by 90%. Even there's some evidence that even cloth masks can decrease that by 70%, right? Now, does it offer you a whole lot of protection if someone coughs in your face? No, but is it still more protection than someone just not having a mask? Absolutely.
Right.
So things aren't binary in medicine. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not if you do this and one goes up, the other has to come down.
Right.
No. So masks can help. And then all these posts about, you can get carbon dioxide toxicity or decreased oxygen levels, stuff like that. That's not true. If it was, surgeons would be dropping all the time. Surgeons are doing 13-hour surgeries sometimes.
Right.
Fully garbed up in masks the entire time.
Right.
Right. So you can't always believe what you hear out there. There is some studies out there where people are quoting, they're saying, masks don't work because of this study, when there are some flawed parts to the study. There's a reason why a lot of the healthcare experts are saying wear a mask, and the people who are saying you don't wear a mask are not healthcare experts.
Right. So back to wellness, I know that's 3/4 of what you preach. That's 3/4 of what you are all about, if not 100%. I've always preached that your health is your wealth. And now, more than ever, it's evident, right? And I think on the preventative side, I think there's probably a fairly good chance that all of us might contract this coronavirus. I'm not sure, but I think preventative is your biggest. Being preventative is your greatest asset right now, right? The vitamin C and the vitamin D and the zinc and glutathione. I mean, what are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, so that's absolutely correct. I mean, in this situation, the best defense for this is, of course, hand hygiene, right? Being safe, taking measures to protect yourself, right? Keeping that physical distancing. But it's also making sure your immune system is functioning the best it can function.
Right.
Get some sunlight, still engage in social activities with people. However, if you feel safe with it, engage within the parameters that we're supposed to keep.
Right.
Do these Zooms, have a Zoom happy hour, talk to friends, but also you can boost your immune system through vitamin C, through vitamin D, through zinc, through glutathione. Right? There are things that you can do to boost your immune system. Make sure you're eating real food, fruits, vegetables. Avoid the processed foods. Avoid the excess sugar. Get sleep. Moderate your stress. Meditate. All of these things impact the function of your immune system.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I try to tell people, don't just cower in the corner of your bedroom and lay there in fear. Like you still have to get out there and enjoy your life somehow, because being in that bedroom, being in the corner, scared to death to even leave your bedroom, you're instilling more fear into yourself, and fear and stress can kill you also,
Right.
So yeah, I'm like, I personally do an IV drip every 2 weeks with my IV guy, where we boost my immune system with extra of everything. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if that's something that you have available to you, that's a great way to do it. And I think that for that type of therapy, that's the perfect vehicle for it, is to boost you before or after something happens. That's perfect for IV therapy. Exactly what you said about not cowering in the corner, being socially isolated. I just did a video on Instagram and Facebook where I talked about the risk of death from all causes, what we call all-cause mortality, from social isolation is, in the African American community, about 134% increased risk of death from social isolation. Those who are most socially isolated, and that's in men. And African American women, it was about 84% increased risk, and then it was a little bit less for Caucasian men and women. But we're still talking about something that is a huge magnitude of risk based upon social isolation. Yeah. And then what is everybody doing right now? We're socially isolating. Remain physically distant, but still remain social. We are social creatures. We are meant to interact. It is literally part of the human experience to be social and interact with others. Right.
Yeah, I can remember when this whole coronavirus thing started, I said to my husband, I'm not so worried about you catching the coronavirus as I am you dying from stress. Because when this coronavirus thing first hit, and we're in oil and gas. So, when oil was at like minus $38, my husband was saying things like, oh my God, I'd like to jump out the window and kill myself, but I'm on the first floor. And I'm like, I'm more worried for your stress levels than I am the coronavirus getting you, because we live a very healthy life. We exercise. We're both within our weight range that we're supposed to be in. Our immune systems are boosted all the time. Besides the IVs that I do, like every day, I'm full of vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, glutathione, you name it. And so I just told him, I said, I'm more worried with you with the stress, because stress can kill, So, and that's why, like me, my salvation was just getting out there and doing a power walk every morning and every night, not just to get the fresh air and the sunlight, but still see people, still talk to people, socially distance, but just, that was my therapy. That was for me to keep my mental sane, to not be one of these people just laying on the couch watching Netflix nonstop, overeating and just not having any interaction with the world.
Right. And we're not meant to be that way.
No.
And like you said, stress is a huge thing. So I have 3 podcast episodes, 2 released, 1 not released, on stress. Okay. Because there are so many people that still believe that stress has no impact on their physical health. And I say, okay, now what in the body makes you happy? And they're like, oh yeah, serotonin. I'm like, okay, right, that's an emotion that's caused by a chemical. Most people know that. Yeah. Right? I'm saying, okay, so don't you think the stress hormones could have an effect on your body? Yeah. And, people kind of blink a little bit and they're like, oh man, I never really thought about that. I'm like, yeah, those stress hormones have a negative effect on your body, just like the happy hormones have a positive effect on our body. Right. So our emotions and our mental state do impact our overall health, and stress is a big time killer, especially here in the hustle culture of the U.S.
Right.
So talk to us about sources for vitamin C, vitamin D zinc and glutathione. Are all sources created equal? Do you have a recommendation from where people should acquire these? Is Amazon okay, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so of course, not all supplements are created equal. The supplement market is the wild, wild west, unfortunately. I always tell people, look, I don't care if you get your supplements from me. I want you to get high quality supplements. So if you're buying supplements, always make sure that they say on the label CGMP. CGMP means that they were third party tested to make sure that what you see on the bottle is in the actual product and that they're free of contamination, heavy metals, all those things. So in my e-store, I carry only products that meet these qualifications. And so they're higher end products. One of my colleagues like to say that if you buy cheap supplements, all you're doing is getting expensive urine.
Very true. Very true. So don't buy your supplements at the grocery store.
No, don't buy them at the grocery store. You have no idea what you're getting. The market is so unregulated that I can literally make something and say, oh yeah, A, B, and C is in this, and none of it is in there. So this CGMP lets you know that someone else has come in, a third-party organization who's tested it, and that company pays them. They're paying to get their product tested to ensure that they have the best potency, accurate, and safe for people to consume.
Oh, that's good.
So I noticed, because I order a lot of my supplements off your site, getting the liquid C is almost impossible.
Yeah, so a lot of the people who are in this sphere have recommended, of course, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, and glutathione to their clients and their patients. And even in the hospital, that's the formula I'm using when I go see people in the hospital as well to help boost their immune system. So there's been a huge demand for these products, and it's only escalated as cases have increased. So a lot of times, even before this, I always made sure I had these on hand, because if I was going to do something, if I was going to go on vacation, if I was going to a foreign country, I would have those immune boosters with me, because now all of a sudden I'm putting my body in an environment that it's not used to.
Right.
And so that's a lot of people get sick after they travel or they go to new environments or new places because of that. So that's one of the reasons why I usually have these things on hand. Again, I have that wellness savings account, right? So whenever I am in a situation where I need it, I can take those deposits out.
Right. So I'm just saying, because I guess it's a known fact now that vitamin C is helping in the battle with coronavirus. That's maybe why there's a shortage of vitamin C. Liquid, I think it's called liposomal vitamin C. Because I was like literally on your supplement program where it's supposed to get shipped to me every 30 days. And they called me and said, we can't get it. And I'm like, oh, great. Where am I going to get it? Amazon? But yeah, I'm like, so that's
it's hard, and that's the brand that I carry is probably one of the top 3 brands as far as supplement companies, right? So if they're having trouble getting it, that there's just a whole nationwide shortage because of the amount of people who are now trying to take these products to ensure that they're safe.
Right. So if I can't get it from you, I guess I have to go to Amazon. Huh?
As long as it's CGMP, I'm okay with that.
So what's your recommendation on exercise for people? We know with the obesity being out of control, hell, I saw it 20 years ago in my health clubs, and it's gotten even worse now. But you know me, there's not a day that goes by that I don't exercise. Like, it's part of my life. It's like brushing my teeth. I don't know any better. So I guess if I had one addiction in life, it's to work out every day. I love it. But so you're just telling people through this coronavirus, and let's pretend like there's not even a coronavirus. Your recommendation is to change their eating habits, get more exercise, make sure your supplements are good. What else?
Yeah, so exercise is a huge part of it. It helps regulate our immune system, making sure that it's able to function correctly. And I'm a huge exercise fiend. It's one of the first things I fell in love with health and wellness. I'm usually at the gym 5 or 6 times a week, not because I have to be there that much. You don't need to be there 5 or 6 times a week to get results. I'm there because I love it. So I always tell people the biggest problem with exercise is there's a misconception that you have to exercise for like 2 hours a day to get results.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. There's actually data that shows that you can do a 7-minute home exercise circuit 3 times a day and get results. And it's all body weight. You don't need to buy any.
Right.
So 1 minute of exercise is better than no minutes of exercise. 2 minutes of exercise is better than 1 minute of exercise. So if you can only get in 10 or 15 minutes, that's perfectly fine. Get in 10 or 15 minutes.
Right.
And in fact, some of those 10 or 15 minute workouts are better than the hour workouts that some people are getting because your intensity is higher.
Right. Well, because some people's 1 hour workouts really only about 30 minutes because they're actually socializing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or they're on their phone or they're taking, 3 minutes in between sets. So really they're only exercising for 10 or 15 minutes anyway.
Right.
Right. Where you could just do that 10 or 15 minutes, that HIIT type of workout continuous. I know some people who that's all they do. They do 21 minutes of exercise 3 or 4 times a week. And you look at it and you think they're the type of person who's in the gym for hours. No, they just are very efficient with their workouts. The nutrition is on point. Their sleep is on point. And they get great benefit from a short workout cycle. Right.
So basically, wellness is your game. You're just trying to help one person at a time. I think you see more than one person a day. I don't know how many people's lives you can change in the hospital, but hopefully it starts there when you're in front of that patient. I know plenty of people that have been in that hospital bed and had you come by and say hi to them and they just fall in love with you. So, but yeah, I think, like I said, 20 years ago when I had my health clubs, obesity was horribly out of control then, and now it's even worse. I don't know when or if we're ever going to get it under control.
It's going to take a complex approach because it all starts with our food system. Most people don't realize that the way the government subsidies are set up is that you basically get subsidized to grow corn, wheat, and soy. And most of that goes into processed food. It doesn't go to actual food that goes on people's tables.
Right.
Only 5% of the corn grown in this country actually ends up on people's plates as corn. Most of it goes to ethanol and high fructose corn syrup.
Wow.
All right. So, and if that farmer who's growing corn wants to grow blueberries, they can't. They'll lose their subsidy. All right. So we need to go even at that government policy level of making whole foods cheaper than processed foods. Processed foods are so cheap because they're so highly subsidized.
Right.
All right. So that's why the whole foods are more expensive. It should be the opposite. The whole foods should be subsidized and cheap, and the processed foods should be expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's the medical school education. We're not taught nutrition. We're not talking about fasting. We're not talking about some of these holistic techniques. And then there's even behavioral change is that we can't be afraid to call people out and to push people to be better versions of themselves.
Right.
You often think about what's the premise behind coaching. Like your high school coach, what do? They pushed you. They tried to get the most out of you by challenging you and trying to get you to be the best version of yourself.
Right.
A lot of times we need to be challenged in order to do so. And if you're a true friend to me, you're challenging me. I don't want the yes man who's always telling me, yeah, Richard, you're the best, you're the greatest. No, right. I want the friend who's challenging me to be better, who's supporting me, but also challenging me. So there's a lot that needs to change for us to stem this tide, but we can't, we just need enough people and to create a momentum. And I think we can. I think what will happen with COVID is you're going to see people take a bigger look at their health and their behaviors because of what has happened in this health crisis, because of the general unhealthiness of the population.
Do you think they actually get it though? Do you actually think the person that's sitting there that's 50 to 100 pounds overweight actually understands that if they changed their eating habits and got exercise and lost the weight, that their health would improve?
I think so. I think, number one, they're going to talk to people who who are like them who have gotten COVID and who are in the hospital for weeks and got out. You know, if that doesn't cause you to change your habits, if you're sitting in the hospital bed for 3 weeks on death's door, I don't know what will.
Right.
No, that to me is such a powerful wake up call, and seeing these images and hearing these stories of people. You know, I think that will scare some people into being healthy and motivating them into changing their behavior.
Right.
So speak to us, to those who think that COVID-19 is still a hoax.
Yeah, that's just unbelievable. I can't even imagine that if you could come down to the hospital and some of these places. So the issue was that when this first started, every place was different. So there were some places that had no cases, and then places like New York had, and New Orleans and Detroit were getting hammered.
Right.
So even in Houston, you know, a month and a half ago, we were seeing very few cases. And so it was hard for us to see what was going on and understand what some of these other places were going through.
Right.
So even here, a lot of people were saying, oh, this isn't real. I can't believe it. And then now, Houston is like the epicenter for COVID. So every place got hit a little differently, a little different timeline.
Right.
But it's definitely real. Like I said, I've seen things I've never seen in 16 years of medicine with this. I've never seen such a huge dichotomy of people, like where 50 to 60% of people who get it have zero symptoms, and then the people who get hospitalized stay hospitalized for weeks, right? We haven't really seen one disease cause such a huge difference in symptoms, and we're still trying to figure out exactly why that is. Why certain people get such a profound immune response and some don't. There's some evidence out there it's linked to nutrient deficiencies and, of course, those chronic medical conditions. Mm-hmm. But there's still a lot that we have to figure out.
Interesting, right? Like you said, you haven't seen anything like this in 16 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. So, Richard, where can everyone find you?
Yes. So if you're interested in learning more about holistic wellness and taking control of your health, because you have the power, right? You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at drharrismd. I highly suggest my podcast, the Strive for Great Health podcast, which Theresa has been a guest on. And we talked about her life, gratitude, resilience, all of these other aspects of health. That's a great way to get to know what is holistic medicine. Is my podcast, and then my website, theghwellness.com. My business is called greathealthandwellness.com. I'd love to hop on a call with you if you're interested in holistic medicine and figure out how we can work together.
Yes. I just love talking to you. I love people that appreciate health and wellness and fitness like I do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my life. Just so people are wondering here, I live the lifestyle, right? I'm not just telling people to work out.
Everybody's got arms like that. Come on, you gotta show us your abs. It's the abs. It's always in the abs. So, well, we appreciate you being on the show, Richard. It's always so much fun interviewing you. You're just such a wealth of knowledge. I just love it. So. Once again, guys, thank you for tuning in to Conversations in the Closet. We always have interesting guests. Who's right here in the pudding? Another interesting guest. So until next time, guys, bye-bye.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radical, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient Nasset. Nasset increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.